you.
Okay.
Welcome to tonight's General Council meeting for April 9th. So identification of media. I don't see any. And just before we get started, let's take a moment of silence to honor the community members we have recently lost. Let's take a moment. Okay, thank you. So adoption of the agenda. Is there any additions, deletions? Audrey, did you have your hand up? You're on mute.
Yes, I realize that. I was going to motion.
Okay, moved by Audrey, second by Elaine. Oh, you have an addition? Okay.
Last general council in camera, we had the Allura Mohawks discussion.
Yeah.
And there was a motion to bring that decision to the open. So if you could add that to this meeting.
Yep.
Thank you.
So moved by Helen. Okay. So moved by Audrey, is there a seconder for the agenda? Second by Amos, all in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. So we have delegations. Ryan Furlong? Finan
Yes.
Phil?
Hi.
Hi.
Yes. Hi. How are you?
Good. So welcome to tonight's meeting. You have 15 minutes and then we'll take a few questions. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much for having us here. I'll introduce myself really quickly and we'll be brief here, but I'm Ryan Furlong. I'm a local Hamilton filmmaker. I've been born and raised here in Hamilton my whole life. I've operated a production company here on Locke Street for 17 years. Chris, who is also with us today, Chris Coles, is our producer for this film, and he's from LA, but he's been living here. His wife is a Hamilton, originally from Hamilton as well, and they moved back over COVID, so now they're living in Hamilton as well. I'll let Chris jump in a minute or so and tell you a little bit more about his background and his view of our plan. But I'll quickly just give you a premise of the film so you know what we're talking about. The movie is called For the Love of Rose, and it's about Tom King, a former boxing champion who has a wife and a small child to support, and they've lapsed into poverty. Tom has accumulated a sizable debt that he can't repay, and his creditors have agreed to clear the debt if he helps their millionaire friend find a missing person in a working class town that borders a reservation. Tom arrives to this town only to discover that the woman he was hired to come find is discovered dead. Suddenly, Tom finds himself entrapped in a scandal by his new employers that involves valuable land, and he's forced to make some pretty serious decisions in order to help save his family. So given that the film touches upon some Indigenous characters and topics, Chris and we wanted to ensure that we get all the cultural and traditional components right and be as accurate as possible. And in short, we want to hire Indigenous talent and shoot on the Six Nations for some of the locations, and we want to seek your guidance for cultural and traditional accuracy. So in a nutshell, that's what we're doing, and I can let Chris hop in and give you a little bit of a background about him and kind of a little bit more about our plan.
Yep, thank you so much for having us. My name's Chris Coles. I am a dual citizen, US and Canadian. Been here for the last 4 years. We moved home to deal with some older parents on my wife's side, and we have 2 young kids, and we've lived in Dundas now for the last 4 years. And I still work in Los Angeles, have a company there as well as a company here, and work in both film and television, and have always been drawn to kind of interesting characters and interesting kind of snapshots of history. I think Most famously, I did a movie called Chappaquiddick, which was about Ted Kennedy, that was at TIFF a few years back. Was a prestige film with a really beautiful cast and received a lot of accolades. And so, from just a straight film perspective, that's kind of what I like to do. I'm only engaged in things that I think have real value culturally, and I think that we have a really interesting film here that we can make premium and beautiful. And so Ryan and I have been working on this for a little bit of time. Where the game plan, and please, if I'm speaking to things that you know, please cut me off, but the game plan is to use telefilm money initially, but we've also got Danny Irons, who is a seasoned producer. So we're going to go out and hopefully build on whatever telefilm gives us, so that we can go out and hire the right people, hire a cast that's going to give us visibility and break through some of the noise in this very busy world, and capture some eyeballs. So that is really our game plan, to make a really rich premium film that finds an audience and hopefully wins some awards and is and makes an impact.
Okay, great. Is there any questions or comments? Yep, go ahead, Alina.
Hi there. I may have missed it, Ryan or Chris. Are there particular nations identified, and if so, which nations?
We have identified Mohawk and, of the 6 nations specifically in the script.
Any other, David?
Good evening, gentlemen. I was just wondering about your timeline from start to finish in relation to what you want to do on Six Nations.
The timeline. Go ahead, Chris.
Are you speaking about like actual being on site, or the timeline? I mean, the timeline of the project is we will submit to telefilm here in the next several weeks. Their process is, is several months. Ideally, we would be shooting, it's optimistic to think we would be shooting in the fall. And then of course we would have to deal with weather. So if we were fortunate enough to be shooting in the fall, it would be fall, or it would be then probably spring. Realistically, these things are, as you know, like very difficult to mount, lots of moving parts, and we still have quite a ways to go as we march this thing towards a starting line, not even a finish line.
Yeah, thank you. No, I was just wondering, so that it's required for us to keep the community up to date, and then if there's going to be particular issues that may be, they're focused on roads or anything else where it might have interfere with public access or anything, that's all, just to keep the community up to date.
Oh yeah,
For
we're
sure.
a ways away from that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Helen?
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just thinking along the lines of Dale. It's important to let us know when you're gonna be here. Not now, but when you get ready to come here, to make sure you let council know. Because when people see, a lot of times when our people see strange people doing things around here, they get kind of antsy. So it's let us know what days you're gonna be here and how long and what you're doing, so we can tell people when they ask us questions. You just don't
We
have,
have a very extensive, we have a big process. We have location managers and support, and they will notify everyone well in advance. And all the logistics and everything will be for sure dealt with and settled with the council and all the pertinent individuals well in advance.
Cynthia, then Audrey.
What are the proposed locations? And then once you do start, how many weeks would you be on site, and would it be consecutive, for example, weeks, or would there be some weeks in, a month or two away, then back in? What is that process?
I mean, typically, it's always more advantageous to block shoot, which means we would, with all our locations, and this is the way most films are, you come in and you block shoot out a particular location regardless of where it falls in the regardless of where it falls in the chronological order of the story. So I would imagine on this, we would be there no more than 3 days. Ryan, does that seem right?
That seems about right. Yeah, for the locations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And we have,
let's say 3 days to 5 days just as a max, but we will know once we get to, once we get, 10 weeks out from the actual start of filming of this, we will, those days will be concrete, because each day is money, and the budget will be very, 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 very tight and strict. So we will be able to say to you and work with you and go, listen, we're going to shoot for a total of a month. The film will take place over a month. We need 3 days on your land. In that month, are there 3 days that are your preference? And we will do, everything we need to do to work around that. So, and again, like Ryan said, there will be designated employees on the film whose entire job is managing locations and making sure that everything is done just like perfectly. That, when we come in, we shoot and we leave it exactly the way, we found it. So there are people that, do that job on every film, and that is the only job they do. So
Okay, Audrey?
Yeah, welcome, guys. Are you looking for Mohawk speakers and people in their traditional dress? Or are you looking for modern First Nations of Mohawks? And also,
More
can we
modern.
do the
it's definitely more modern.
more modern, okay? But you want any speakers of the language?
It would be ideal to identify people that are traditional speakers, and also, as we get further along, discuss opportunities potentially to include that in portions of the script. Currently, there's no native speaking in the actual script, but that's not to say that there couldn't be elements of it in the film. There is one scene in particular where there are two hunters at a gas station, and I could see that we could incorporate that in that scene for sure. And I've thought about that in writing it. I just wrote it in English because, of course, I can't speak. I can't speak Mohawk, so it would not be. It's not in my purview, but certainly something that we could certainly introduce, and I think it would actually add some value to that scene. So, long story short, yes, there is an opportunity, and that would be something that we would look at for sure with you in your consultation.
Okay. All right, well, we'll be able to get some names for you. And then the next question is about, will we be able to see the film before it's released to the general public? Make sure that it is nothing offensive in there.
Chris would be able to speak better to this. Personally, I wouldn't have a problem. I think that would come down to any legalities around distributors and kind of what the agreements are, because they're pretty expensive agreements. But Chris, maybe you can speak more to that.
I typically, if we're going to be working with you, yes, my feeling would be that we would absolutely want you to see the film, and we would absolutely want you to endorse the film, and speak on behalf of the film. Like, I think the last thing in the world we would want to do is put something out that you guys were unhappy with, and it's just, that's not to anyone's benefit. And I don't think that's, not only is that not to our benefit from just a overall just launching the film and making sure that we're launching with the wind at our backs, but I think it's also we want to make something that's authentic. And so we certainly wouldn't want to put something out that didn't feel that way in your eyes.
Fully
So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Thank you very much.
and I don't imagine any partners that we get into business with would have reservations about that. You know, would balk at that either. So yeah, that's
Thank you.
as best as I can see. Yeah.
Okay, Hazel, then
If
let's wrap.
possible as well, I wanted to, oh, sorry. I
Okay,
was
let's-
just going to say, if possible, too, there's groups that we would like to try to, work with also in terms of the post-production of the movie. A short film I did years ago, I did the score at Casa Studios, and I think I might have been the first film director and first movie to ever do anything there, and I really loved the experience there. So there's other opportunities too where we could try, we're looking at where we can actually, aside from just shooting on the Six Nations and working with talent, stuff after the fact too, in the entire process of the movie, we would try to work together in various capacities.
Hazel?
I just want to ask, would all of your cast members be from this reserve? Is that what your intent is?
No, the entire cast would, yeah. I
Okay.
don't think that's on the case, but certainly we would look to engage talent from Six Nations for sure. For example, one actor I've discussed this with, who showed interest pending schedule a while back, was Gary Farmer. So he's an example of someone, and then beyond that, there's a number of parts that we could certainly fill with local talent, but not all of the roles will be filled by locals.
Another question is, would you also consider having recent graduates from this film development school and trying to get into the same business that you're in? Would you be allow people to help you while you're here?
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we would definitely be looking to hire some people for the crew. And I've always been big on kind of that type of outreach and the educational aspect of our business. So for sure.
So how do you contact you? Do you have a card, or could you send information on how you could contact you?
Well, once we're a little further along, I mean, again, we won't be at the place where these are really preliminary. Like we still have to get through telefilm. We still have to get financing to go and make the movie. But once we get to a place where like we're really moving, we've got our cast. I mean, we need we have our director, we have our script. We need, the two things we need now is we need the finances to go make the movie. And then we need, these kind of go hand in hand. You need a couple of the actors, that are going to be, the main leads in the film. We need those because that kind of goes hand in hand with people giving us the money to go make it. You kind of need proven names, people that have made money at the box office. So once we have those things and we're actually like in the process of really trying to put together the company that is going to go make the movie, then we will have people that can interview and place those types of individuals in jobs.
Okay, there's a motion that the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council grant permission to Ryan Furlong of Fenian Films to film For the Love
of Rose on Six Nations of the Grand River. I think, can we add for them to come back? Or go ahead, Elena.
I was going to mention, possibly forwarding it to the Education and Culture Committee so that it doesn't necessarily have to come back to full council for any back and forth. And I would move that.
Okay, moved by Elena, is there a seconder? Second by Dale, all in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Okay, thank you for coming tonight.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Honor. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll be talking soon.
Great. Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect.
Have a
Okay,
good rest of your
thank you.
meeting. Bye-bye.
Okay, let's move on to number 6, adoptions of the general council minutes of March 26th. Moved by Amos, is there a seconder? Second by Helen, question, Dale? Okay. All in favor? Be opposed? See none, carried. Is there any council reports? Go ahead, Helen.
Yeah, I don't know how many of you read my email, but I was raising an issue about these council reports, that we should schedule them. I think we should be scheduling the council reports at the end of the month, because your month is over. Your meetings have all been attended. And the chief's update, because they're on every agenda. And then sometimes when people, not everybody watches every meeting. So sometimes maybe for, like, say tonight, when there's no councilor reports, they're gonna think councilors don't do anything. Because we're not given reports. But yet we gave some yesterday, and we might give some next time, but I'm thinking to make it more organized, that we should have a spot for them. And I think the counselor should be speaking to the report, because yesterday the counselors never got to speak to the reports. We're the only ones that read them. The community knows nothing about where they went or what they did, or. So I really think we need to schedule them better or differently. And that way, everybody can know what everybody's doing. Like, even when you bring your report up at the council table, just briefly, you can explain, well, I went to, like, Melba and Hazel, they went to the health wellness conference, and this is how long we were there. This is, some of the things that happened. It doesn't have to be long, and then the community knows where they went and what they were doing. Because that's what the reports are for council, but it's still for the community to know what we're doing. So I don't know, I guess Shirley or whoever does the agendas, I think, try and work out some kind of a better system for doing these, so they can be more, I don't know what the word is, together or something. Because now they're just spread all over all of the political liaisons and councils. They're just spread all over finance. Even finance, I think it has council reports, doesn't it? They're everywhere. That's just my suggestion. I don't know if anybody agrees with me or not.
Go ahead, Melba.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, yeah, that Helen has, but I just wanted to add that when you mentioned that people will be going with you to the radio program station, that's where they possibly could also mention the reports also.
Good. So we'll get Shirley and Nathan to look at that, Helen, and have a better process, and for sure give time for counselors to explain it. Okay, that I have no updates. There's no scheduling. We have Elena and then Helen.
Okay, so last general council, Laura Mohawks were here asking for, our representative came and asked for our support in keeping the Mohawks in their name. That discussion was moved to in camera, and there was a resolution. And then we decided to move that item to open, so this is the next open meeting. Are you gonna read it? So, the motion read, moved by Hazel Johnson and second by Melba Thomas, that the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council agrees to send a letter to the Elora Mohawks Lacrosse Organization, offering our support in keeping Elora Mohawks as the name of their lacrosse team. In addition, Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council requests that the Elora Mohawks Lacrosse Organizations to educate themselves on the history and where the name comes from with Mohawk knowledge holders. And it passed. Mhm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there was two opposed, but it carried. Okay, so I have Helen.
I just wanted to let everybody know, I talked to a gentleman today. Applied for the water settlement last year when it first came out. And today he got a letter telling him that he didn't qualify because Six Nations wasn't on the list. So they're starting to send letters out to the ones that applied last year. So all of the people that did it this year, they probably get one soon, I would think, but that's what these letters said, because Six Nations isn't on the, I don't know what that word is, qualified list. So just letting everybody know.
Yeah, so there has been contacts and the letters have come to the office. And Nathan, go ahead, next step.
Yeah, one thing, we did talk to a few community members as well today, just on that very issue, and we are preparing a communication to go out that identifies next steps in terms of where we go from here. I'm just waiting on our legal team, who has done some due diligence on that, to provide us what our next steps are.
Well, it's also in the letter that they can appeal. And I told the gentleman that me and him can sit down and we will appeal it, just to see what happens.
60 days, right? Is that what it said? 60
Pardon?
days, 60 days
Yeah,
to
something
appeal?
like that,
Yeah, okay,
So
Thank
we
you.
are gonna appeal just to see what happens.
thank you. Okay, that is the end of tonight's general council meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn? To go to the in-camera. Moved by Audrey, second by Leslie. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. Thank you for joining us tonight and have a great night.